Hey, family. Welcome to Mr. Gray Family, where every story begins with us. Amanda didn't scream. She didn't cry. She didn't even move. She just sat there, on the edge of her bed, staring at something so small, yet powerful enough to change her entire life. 2 lines, clear, unmistakable. Her fingers tightened slightly around the pregnancy test, like maybe, just maybe, if she held it long enough, the answer would change. It didn't. Her heartbeat slowed, then picked up again, uneven, uncertain. No, this doesn't make sense. Her voice barely made it past her lips, because this wasn't supposed to happen. Not like this, not from one night. One night she never planned. One night she didn't expect to matter. And yet, here she was, pregnant, and not just pregnant. Her throat tightened as the memory of the doctor's voice echoed in her head. You're expecting twins. Amanda blinked slowly, like her body was trying to catch up to reality. Twins. The word didn't feel real. It felt heavy, bigger than fear, bigger than confusion, because this wasn't just about her anymore. This was responsibility. This was consequence. This was life, growing inside her. Twice, she placed her hand gently on her stomach, her palm resting there like she was trying to feel something that hadn't fully revealed itself yet. Silence filled the room. Not peaceful silence, the kind that forces you to think, the kind that doesn't let you escape. And in that silence, one memory refused to stay quiet. Him, Logan, his face, his voice. That night, Amanda closed her eyes tightly, exhaling as if she could push the memory away. But it only became clearer, because deep down, she already knew. There was only one person this could lead back to. Her fingers trembled slightly as she reached for her phone. She stared at the screen. His number wasn't saved, but she remembered it. Of course she did. Some things don't leave you that easily. Her thumb hovered over the call button. For a second, she hesitated, because the moment she pressed it, everything would change. Not just for her, for him too, and there was no undoing that. Just say it, she whispered to herself. Her heart pounded harder now. Faster, louder. She pressed call. The ringing felt longer than it actually was, each second stretching, pulling, testing her resolve. Then, hello? His voice, calm, controlled, familiar in a way that made this harder. Amanda swallowed. Hi, it's Amanda. A brief pause, not confusion, recognition. I know. That caught her off guard. Her grip tightened on the phone. You. Remember me? A faint exhale came from his end. Yeah, I do. That made this heavier than she expected, because he didn't sound distant. He sounded present. And now, there was no easy way to say what came next. Amanda closed her eyes for a split second, then forced the words out before fear could stop her. I'm pregnant. Silence. Not the kind you ignore. The kind that sits between two people and demands to be acknowledged. She waited, her chest rising and falling slowly. Then she added, because she couldn't carry it alone, and it's twins. This time, Logan didn't respond immediately, not because he didn't hear her, but because everything just shifted. She could feel it. Even through the phone, a breath left him, low, controlled, but different. Twins. The word sounded like he was testing it, trying to understand what it meant for his life, for his control, for everything he had carefully built. Amanda braced herself, for distance, for logic, for a response that would remind her exactly how different their worlds were. Instead, his voice came back steady, decisive. Where are you? Amanda frowned slightly, caught off guard. At home. A short pause. Then, I'm coming. Her eyes widened. That's not necessary. It is. No raised voice. No hesitation. Just certainty. And, somehow, that made everything feel even more real. Amanda slowly lowered the phone from her ear. Her mind was racing now, because this wasn't just her situation anymore. This was theirs. 2 people, 2 completely different lives, now tied together by something neither of them planned, but neither of them could ignore. And the question wasn't just what happens next. The question was, what happens when one night turns into a lifetime connection, neither of you were ready for. Welcome to Mr. Gray Family, a storytelling universe built for people who crave meaning, emotion, and unforgettable narratives. Here, every story begins with a spark and ends with a feeling you'll carry long after the video ends. Love, betrayal, family, secrets, lessons. It's all here, wrapped in immersive narration that makes you forget everything else. If you're searching for stories that pull your heart, challenge your mind, and keep you coming back, subscribe now. Your story begins the moment you choose to stay. Before we go any further, I need you to do something important. If you've ever had a moment in your life that changed everything without warning, a decision you thought was small, but ended up rewriting your entire future, I want you to like this video and share your story in the comments, because stories like this, they don't belong to just one person. They belong to all of us. And trust me, this one, it's only just beginning. The truth is, that night didn't feel important when it started. There were no warning signs, no feeling that something life-changing was about to happen. It was just another night in Las Vegas. And Las Vegas never waits for anyone. Lights stretched across the skyline like they had something to prove. Music moved through the air from every direction. People filled the streets, chasing something. Money, distraction, connection. Sometimes all three at once. For most people, it was escape. For Amanda, it was work. She adjusted the small headset resting against her ear, her voice calm but firm as she coordinated instructions. Table 6 needs resetting. Now, not later. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. People listened when Amanda spoke, not because she demanded it, but because she carried herself with a quiet confidence that made people take her seriously. At 29, Amanda had already learned something most people take years to understand. If you want stability, you build it yourself. Her life wasn't glamorous. It wasn't easy either, but it was hers. She had worked for every inch of it. Long hours, demanding clients, smiles that had to stay in place even when her energy was gone. And tonight was one of the biggest events she had handled in months. High profile, private, the kind of event where mistakes weren't tolerated. Amanda moved through the rooftop venue with purpose, her eyes catching details others would miss. A glass slightly out of place, a staff member moving too slowly, a guest waiting longer than they should. She fixed everything before it became a problem. That's who she was, reliable, focused, strong. But underneath all of that, she was tired. Not physically, that kind of tired you can sleep off. This was different. This was the kind that sits in your chest and doesn't leave. The kind that comes from always being the one people depend on, the one who doesn't fall apart, the one who keeps going, even when she doesn't feel like it. Amanda paused for a second near the edge of the rooftop, taking in the city below. For just a moment, she let herself breathe. No expectations, no pressure, just a quiet second in a loud city. Then, "Miss Amanda, we have a change in the guest list." She turned immediately. "Who?" The assistant handed her a tablet. Amanda scanned it quickly. One name stood out instantly. Logan. She didn't know much about him personally, but she knew enough. A name like that doesn't exist quietly. It carries weight, influence, power. The kind of presence that shifts a room before the person even walks in. Amanda handed the tablet back without reacting. "Make sure security is aware, and keep everything smooth." Her tone stayed professional, controlled, because to her, he was just another guest. Important, yes, but still just a guest. And Amanda treated everyone the same. That's what made her different. Across the city, Logan's night looked completely different. There were no crowds around him, no loud music, no chaos. His world was structured, intentional, every move planned. At 35, Logan had built a life most people only talk about. A billionaire CEO, a man who didn't just follow systems, he created them. His company didn't rely on luck, it relied on precision. And Logan was the center of it all. His schedule was tight, his decisions were calculated. And his expectations? Even tighter. He stepped out of his car, his expression neutral as he approached the venue. No unnecessary movement, no wasted energy. Everything about him was controlled. That's how he stayed ahead. That's how he stayed untouchable. Inside the rooftop venue, the atmosphere shifted slightly as he entered, not dramatically, but noticeably. People recognized presence, even when no one said anything. Amanda didn't see him at first. She was already moving, already focused, already solving the next thing before it became a problem. And that's when it happened. A quick turn, a step taken at the same time from opposite directions. And impact. Amanda's shoulder bumped into something solid. Her clipboard slipped from her hand, papers scattered. A glass tilted slightly, but didn't fall. Both of them paused. Amanda blinked, immediately bending down to gather her papers. "I'm so sorry. That was my fault." She stopped mid-sentence as she looked up, because now she saw him, Logan, standing there, looking down at her. Not annoyed, not amused, just observing, taking her in. Amanda stood up quickly, brushing a strand of her curls back. "You'd think after running events all night, I'd master walking in a straight line," she said, a small smile breaking through. Logan's lips curved slightly. "Or maybe you were aiming for dramatic timing." Amanda let out a short laugh. "Trust me, if I wanted attention, I'd do a much better job than that." There it was. No hesitation, no pressure, no trying too hard, just real. And Logan noticed it immediately. Because he wasn't used to that, people usually adjusted themselves around him, changed their tone, their posture, their words. Amanda didn't. She picked up the last sheet of paper and straightened it. "Are you okay?" she asked. Logan nodded once. "I am." "Are you?" "I will be, once I recover my professional reputation after that performance." That made him pause for a second. Then he almost smiled. Not the polite kind, the real kind, and that was rare. Something shifted in that moment, subtle, unspoken, but present, because for the first time that night, Logan wasn't thinking about business, and Amanda wasn't thinking about work. They were just two people, standing in the middle of a crowded rooftop, having a conversation that felt unexpectedly easy. The moment should have ended there. A simple collision, a quick apology. Two people returning to their separate worlds. That's how nights like this usually go. But for some reason, neither of them moved right away. Amanda adjusted the papers in her hand, glancing at Logan briefly before speaking again. "Well, since I've already made a memorable first impression, I might as well ask, are you enjoying the event?" Her tone was light, but still professional. Logan tilted his head slightly, considering the question. "It's efficient." Amanda raised an eyebrow. "Efficient?" she repeated, a hint of amusement in her voice. "That's not exactly the word most people use for a rooftop event in Las Vegas." Logan gave a small shrug. "I like things that run smoothly. No chaos, no wasted time." Amanda crossed her arms loosely, studying him for a second. "Wow, you must be fun at parties." That caught him off guard. Not the words, but how easily she said them. No hesitation, no second guessing, just honesty. And strangely, he didn't mind it. "I didn't say I don't enjoy it," Logan replied. "I just prefer when things make sense." Amanda nodded slowly. "Fair enough. I guess that means I'm doing my job right." "You are," Logan said without pause. The directness of his response made her blink for a moment. Most people didn't give compliments like that. Not clean, not immediate. Amanda shifted her weight slightly. "Careful," she said, a small smile forming. "If you keep that up, I might start thinking you're easy to impress." Logan looked at her, really looked this time. "You're not trying to impress me." It wasn't a question. Amanda shook her head. "No, I'm trying to get through the night without anything catching fire." That earned a quiet exhale from him, something close to a laugh. And just like that, the space between them changed. The conversation stopped feeling like small talk. It felt natural. Amanda glanced around briefly, making sure everything was still in order before turning back to him. "So what brings someone like you to something like this?" she asked. Logan slipped his hands into his pockets. "Business, connections, the usual." Amanda nodded. "Sounds exciting." "It isn't." Her eyes flickered with interest at that. "Really?" Logan held her gaze. "Most of it is predictable. People want something. You figure out what it is. You decide if it's worth your time." Amanda let out a soft hum. That sounds exhausting. It is. There was no hesitation in his answer. And for a second, that honesty sat between them, unfiltered. Amanda leaned slightly against the table beside her, her posture relaxing just a bit. I get that, she said. Different situation. Same feeling. Logan raised an eyebrow. How so? Amanda gestured lightly around them. People think this is glamorous. Lights, music, big events. But they don't see what it takes to keep everything running. Logan didn't interrupt. He just listened. Everyone expects you to be perfect, Amanda continued, smiling, calm, in control. Even when everything behind the scenes is falling apart. Logan's expression shifted slightly. Not dramatically, but enough. That sounds familiar, he said. Amanda looked at him for a moment, surprised. Yeah? He nodded once. Different setting. Same pressure. For a brief second. They just stood there, two people from completely different worlds, finding something in common. Amanda shook her head lightly, almost amused. Look at that, she said. We're out here bonding over stress. Logan's lips curved again. Not exactly how I planned my night. Me neither, Amanda replied. And for the first time that evening, she wasn't thinking about schedules, or checklists, or expectations. She was just present. Logan noticed it, the way her shoulders dropped slightly, the way her voice softened just a little, the way she stopped carrying everything all at once. You don't have to be on all the time, you know, he said. Amanda let out a quiet laugh. That's easy to say when people aren't depending on you. Logan didn't respond immediately, because he understood that more than she realized. Amanda looked at him, her expression more thoughtful now. And you? She asked. Do you ever turn it off? Logan held her gaze. Not really. There was no pride in his answer, just truth. Amanda studied him for a second longer, then shook her head slightly. That explains a lot. Logan frowned faintly. Like what? Amanda smiled. Like why you described this entire event as efficient. That did it. A real laugh escaped him this time. Short, unexpected, but genuine. And when it did, Amanda noticed, because it changed his whole presence. Less guarded, less controlled, more human. Careful, Logan said after a moment. You're starting to sound like you've figured me out. Amanda pushed off the table, straightening slightly. Oh, I definitely haven't, she said, but I'm getting clues. Logan shook his head, still faintly amused. You always this observant? It's part of the job, Amanda replied. You learn to read people quickly. And what do you read from me? She paused for a second, not because she didn't have an answer, but because she was deciding how honest to be. Then, you're used to being in control, she said, of everything. Logan didn't deny it. And? He asked. Amanda met his eyes. And I think you don't trust anything that feels unpredictable. That landed because it was accurate. Logan looked at her differently after that. Not guarded, not defensive, just aware. Maybe, he said. Amanda smiled slightly. Don't worry, I'm not here to mess up your system. Logan held her gaze for a moment longer, then said quietly, maybe that wouldn't be a bad thing. That shifted the air again, subtle, but real. Amanda felt it. She didn't respond right away, because suddenly, this didn't feel like a passing conversation anymore. It felt like something opening, something neither of them planned, and neither of them fully understood yet. But neither of them walked away, not this time. The music softened as the night began to wind down. Guests slowly filtered out, their conversations fading into the background as the rooftop grew quieter. The energy that once filled the space settled into something calmer, more intimate. Amanda noticed it immediately, not just because it was her job to track every shift in the environment, but because, for the first time that night, she wasn't rushing to fix anything. Everything was handled, everything was under control, and somehow, she was still standing there, with Logan. She glanced around briefly, almost like she was reminding herself where she was. I should probably be wrapping things up, she said, though her tone lacked urgency. Logan nodded slightly. Probably. Neither of them moved. A small pause stretched between them, not uncomfortable, just undecided. Amanda let out a quiet breath, then gestured lightly toward the far side of the rooftop. "It's quieter over there," she said. "Less chaos." Logan followed her lead without questioning it. They walked side by side, not too close, not distant either, just steady. The city stretched out beneath them, glowing in every direction. From up here, everything looked different, smaller, simpler. Amanda rested her hands lightly on the railing, looking out. "For a place that never slows down," she said, "it actually feels peaceful from up here." Logan stood beside her, his gaze following hers. "It does." Another pause. But this one felt different. Less about uncertainty, more about comfort. Amanda tilted her head slightly, her voice quieter now. "You ever just want to be normal for one night?" The question wasn't dramatic. It wasn't heavy, but it carried something real. Logan didn't answer immediately, because no one had ever asked him that like that before. Not casually, not without expectation. He looked at her, really looked, and, for once, he didn't think about the right answer. He just gave the honest one. "Yeah." Amanda nodded, like she already knew. "I figured." A faint smile touched her lips. No pressure, no expectations. Just being. Logan leaned slightly against the railing. "That sounds unfamiliar." Amanda laughed softly. "That's because you're used to structure." "And you're not?" he asked. Amanda shook her head. "I am. Just a different kind." She turned slightly toward him. "My life isn't planned out the way yours is. It's more like adjusting as things come." Logan considered that. "And that works for you?" Amanda shrugged lightly. "Most days." There was honesty in that. Not perfect, not polished, just real. The kind of real Logan wasn't used to being around, and that's what made it easy. No pressure to impress, no expectations to meet, just conversation. And somewhere between those quiet exchanges, something shifted again. Not suddenly, not intensely, but clearly. Amanda looked back out at the city, her voice softer now. "It's nice not having to think about everything for a second." Logan followed her gaze. "I know what you mean." And he did, more than he expected. Time passed, but neither of them kept track of it. The world around them faded into the background. No business, no responsibilities, no roles to play. Just two people, sharing a moment that didn't ask anything from them. And that's what made it different. Amanda turned back toward him slowly. There was no rush, no uncertainty, just a quiet understanding that neither of them needed to explain. Logan stepped a little closer, not enough to overwhelm, just enough to close the distance. Amanda didn't step back. Their eyes met, and, for a second, everything else disappeared. No noise, no distractions, just presence. What followed wasn't impulsive. It wasn't careless. It was mutual. Two people who didn't plan this, but didn't stop it either. A moment that felt simple, but meant more than either of them realized at the time. Later, the room was quiet again. Morning light slipped through the curtains, soft and steady. Amanda woke first, her eyes opened slowly, adjusting to the light. For a brief moment, she didn't move. She just lay there, staring ahead. Then reality settled in, not harsh, not overwhelming, just clear. She turned her head slightly. Logan was still asleep, calm, unaware. Amanda studied him for a second, not deeply, not emotionally, just enough to acknowledge what the night had been. Then she sat up quietly. No sudden movement, no hesitation, just a decision. She got dressed without making noise, her movements careful, intentional. There was no confusion in her expression, no regret, just understanding. Some moments don't belong to the future. They exist exactly where they happen, and that's enough. Amanda took one last look around the room, then walked toward the door. She didn't leave a note, didn't take anything with her, didn't pause. She simply left. The door closed softly behind her, and just like that, the night ended. Hours later, Logan stirred slightly, his eyes opening as the room came into focus. Something felt different. He sat up slowly, looking around. Empty, too quiet. He noticed it immediately, not because he expected her to still be there, but because part of him wondered. He ran a hand across his face, exhaling lightly. No frustration, no confusion, just a thought that lingered longer than it should have. Amanda. The way she spoke, the way she didn't try, the way she felt. Real. Logan leaned back slightly, staring ahead. He didn't chase, didn't reach for his phone, didn't question it out loud, but something stayed with him, not a memory he could dismiss, not a moment he could categorize, just something he didn't fully understand yet. And that was new for him, very new. Life didn't stop after that night. It moved forward the same way it always did, fast, demanding, unapologetic. Amanda went back to work the very next day. Same schedule, same responsibilities, same expectations waiting for her the moment she stepped in. If anyone looked at her from the outside, nothing had changed. She still walked with confidence, still handled pressure without hesitation, still kept everything running smoothly. Something felt off. At first it was small, easy to ignore, a slight fatigue that didn't match her usual energy. Moments where her focus slipped just a little. Nothing serious, nothing alarming, just different. Amanda brushed it off. Probably just tired, she muttered one morning as she stood in front of her mirror, adjusting her outfit. She had dealt with exhaustion before. Long hours weren't new to her. But this didn't feel like the kind of tired sleep could fix. Days passed, then more days, and the feeling didn't go away. It stayed, subtle, persistent. Amanda found herself pausing more often than usual, not physically stopping, like her body was trying to tell her something her mind hadn't caught up to yet. One afternoon, while reviewing event details, she stopped mid-sentence. Her assistant was speaking, waiting for instructions. Amanda blinked, realizing she hadn't heard a single word. "Sorry," she said quickly, regaining composure. "Go ahead." The moment passed, but it left something behind, awareness. Later that evening, Amanda sat alone in her apartment. No noise, no distractions, just quiet. She leaned back against the couch, staring at the ceiling. Her thoughts weren't scattered. They were focused, too focused, because now she couldn't ignore it anymore. Her body felt different. Her rhythm felt different. And deep down, there was only one explanation that made sense. Amanda sat up slowly. "No," she said under her breath, not out of fear, out of resistance, because acknowledging it would mean facing something she wasn't ready to deal with. Her mind moved quickly, searching for alternatives. Stress, work pressure, lack of rest, all reasonable, all possible, but none of them fully explained what she was feeling. And that's what unsettled her. Amanda stood up and walked toward the kitchen, grabbing a glass of water. She took a sip, her grip tightening slightly around the glass. "This is nothing," she told herself, but her voice didn't carry conviction, because the truth was already forming, clear, unavoidable, and connected to one moment she hadn't allowed herself to revisit fully. That night, Logan. Amanda exhaled slowly, setting the glass down. Her heart wasn't racing. She wasn't panicking, but something inside her had shifted into attention. She turned toward the hallway, her steps steady, deliberate, like she had already made a decision without saying it out loud. Minutes later, she stood in her bathroom. The space felt smaller than usual, not physically, but mentally, because everything now led to one action, one confirmation. Amanda looked down at the small box in her hand. Simple, ordinary, but carrying a weight that didn't match its size. She stared at it for a second longer than necessary, then opened it. No hesitation this time, because at this point, not knowing was worse. Time moved differently after that, slower, each second stretching as she waited. Amanda leaned against the counter, her eyes fixed on the test. No distractions, no movement, just focus. Her thoughts weren't racing anymore. They were quiet, almost too quiet, because her mind had already reached the conclusion. Her heart was still resisting. Then, the result appeared. Amanda didn't react immediately. She just looked at it, processing, confirming, accepting what was right in front of her. Pregnant. The word didn't need to be spoken. It was there, clear, final. Amanda let out a slow breath, her shoulders lowering slightly. Not from relief, from realization. "This is real," she said softly. No denial left, no alternative explanation, just truth. Her hand moved instinctively to the edge of the sink, steadying herself, not because she felt weak, but because everything had just changed. Her mind began connecting everything instantly. The timing, the symptoms. That night, there was no confusion, no uncertainty, only clarity. Amanda closed her eyes briefly, not to escape, but to gather herself, because this wasn't something she could push aside. This wasn't something she could delay. This was now, and it was hers to face. When she opened her eyes again, the fear wasn't the strongest emotion anymore. It was responsibility, heavy, immediate, and undeniable. Amanda looked back down at the test one more time, then placed it carefully on the counter. Her voice came out quieter than before, not shaken, just honest. Okay, it wasn't acceptance, not fully, but it was the beginning of it. And sometimes, that's the hardest step. Amanda didn't tell anyone, not her coworkers, not friends, not even the people who had known her long enough to read her silence. She carried it alone, not because she wanted to, but because she needed time to understand what this meant before she allowed anyone else into it. The next morning, she woke up earlier than usual, not out of routine, out of awareness. Her eyes opened, and the first thing she felt wasn't confusion anymore. It was weight, not physical, but present, steady, real. Amanda sat up slowly, her hand resting briefly on her stomach before she even realized she was doing it. Then she pulled it back, not out of fear, just adjustment, because everything still felt new, unfamiliar, but undeniable. She got dressed without rushing, her movements more intentional than usual. Every step felt like it carried more meaning, more consequence. By mid-morning, she was already on her way to the clinic. No dramatic decision, no long debate, just action. Because Amanda didn't run from reality, she faced it. Even when it wasn't easy. The clinic was quiet, clean, controlled. Nothing about it felt overwhelming. And yet, her thoughts were sharper here, more focused, because this wasn't assumption anymore. This was confirmation. Amanda sat in the waiting area, her posture straight, her expression calm. If anyone looked at her, they wouldn't see what was happening beneath the surface. But inside, her mind was working through everything at once. Timing, responsibility, the future, and one question that refused to stay quiet. What comes next? Her name was called. Amanda stood up immediately and followed the nurse without hesitation. Inside the room, everything felt direct. No distractions, no delays. The doctor reviewed her file briefly before speaking. "We'll run a full confirmation," she said, her tone steady. "This won't take long." Amanda nodded once. "I understand." She didn't ask unnecessary questions, didn't fill the silence. She just sat there, waiting for facts, waiting for clarity. Minutes passed, short, but significant. Then the doctor returned. The expression on her face wasn't concerning, but it wasn't neutral either. It carried something more specific, something that made Amanda straighten slightly without realizing it. The doctor took a seat across from her. "We've confirmed the pregnancy," she said. Amanda nodded. She expected that. But then, the doctor continued, "There's something else." Amanda's attention sharpened instantly. "What is it?" she asked. No panic, just focus. The doctor held her gaze. "You're expecting twins." For a second, Amanda didn't respond, not because she didn't hear it, but because her mind needed a moment to process it correctly. "Twins?" she repeated. The word felt different when she said it out loud. Heavier. The doctor nodded. "Yes. It's early, but everything indicates a twin pregnancy." Amanda leaned back slightly in her seat, not dramatically, just enough to create space between her and the moment, because this changed the scale of everything. One baby was life-altering. Two, that was something else entirely. Amanda let out a short breath. Not panic, not fear, just impact. "Okay," she said quietly. The doctor offered a small, reassuring smile. "We'll monitor everything closely. For now, just focus on taking care of yourself." Amanda nodded again. She heard the words, but her mind had already moved ahead. 2 lives, 2 responsibilities, 2 futures, depending on her decisions from this moment forward. The appointment ended without complication. no urgency, no alarm, but the weight she walked in with had doubled. Outside, the air felt different, not because anything had changed around her, but because everything had changed within her. Amanda walked to her car slowly, her steps measured. She didn't rush, didn't avoid the moment. She let it sit with her. When she got inside, she didn't start the engine right away. She just sat there, her hands resting on the steering wheel, still, thinking. Twins, she said softly, testing the reality again. This wasn't something she could minimize. This wasn't something she could treat as temporary. This was permanent, and for the first time, her thoughts shifted away from shock, toward decision, because now, there was something she couldn't avoid anymore. Logan. His name entered her mind without hesitation, clear, direct, connected to everything. Amanda leaned back in her seat, her eyes fixed ahead. She tried to approach it logically. It was one night. That doesn't change his life. You can handle this yourself. The thoughts came one after another, structured, controlled, protective. But they didn't settle, because another voice answered back, just as strong. These are his children. Amanda closed her eyes briefly, not to escape, but to focus, because the conflict wasn't simple. It wasn't about fear of rejection. It was about control. Her life had always been hers to manage. Her choices, her direction, her responsibility. But this introduced someone else into that control. Someone with power, influence, a completely different world. Amanda opened her eyes again, her expression steady. She wasn't intimidated by Logan. That wasn't it. What unsettled her was what came with him. His life, his expectations, his environment, and how easily all of that could reshape hers. She exhaled slowly. This changes everything, she said under her breath. Because it did, not just emotionally, but practically. 2 children, 2 futures, and a decision that would define how all of it unfolded. Amanda's fingers tapped lightly against the steering wheel as she thought, tell him, don't tell him, handle it alone, bring him into it. Every option carried consequences, none of them simple, none of them easy, but one truth stayed consistent. Avoiding it wouldn't make it disappear. Amanda sat up slightly, her posture shifting, not into certainty, but into readiness, because she understood something clearly now. No matter what she chose, she had to choose. And soon, because time wasn't waiting, and neither was reality. Amanda didn't call him that day, or the next, not because she forgot, not because she changed her mind, but because she understood what that call would do. It wouldn't just deliver information, it would change direction. Her direction, his direction, everything connected to that one night would stop being private the moment she spoke. So she waited, not passively, but deliberately. Days passed, and Amanda continued moving through her routine. Work, home, responsibilities. From the outside, nothing had shifted, but internally, every quiet moment circled back to the same decision. Tell him, or don't. She tried to push it aside more than once, focused on work longer than necessary, stayed busy, even when she didn't need to be. But clarity doesn't disappear just because you delay it. It waits, and eventually, it demands attention. One evening, Amanda sat alone in her apartment again. No distractions, no background noise, just stillness. Her phone rested on the table in front of her, screen dark, silent, but heavy, because now, she wasn't debating anymore. She was deciding. Amanda reached for it slowly, picking it up and unlocking the screen. Her fingers hovered for a second. Then she typed his number in, carefully, digit by digit. She didn't rush, because she knew. Once this happened, there was no taking it back. She stared at the number for a moment. Her mind stayed clear this time. No overthinking, no second-guessing. Just awareness. This is necessary, she said quietly, not convincing herself, confirming it. Her thumb moved. The call started. The ringing felt longer than it should have, each second stretching just enough to make her aware of what she was about to do. Then, hello? Logan's voice came through, calm, controlled, exactly how she remembered. Amanda didn't speak immediately, not out of hesitation, but because hearing him again made this real in a different way. "Hi," she said, her voice steady. "It's Amanda." There was a brief pause. Not confusion, recognition. "I know." That answer landed clean. No questions, no uncertainty. Amanda adjusted her grip on the phone slightly. "You remember me," she said, not as a question, more as acknowledgement. "I do," Logan replied. His tone hadn't changed. Still composed, still measured, but present. Amanda took a breath. No buildup, no delay. She said it exactly how it needed to be said. "I'm pregnant." Silence followed, not empty, active. Logan didn't interrupt, didn't respond immediately. Amanda let the words sit, because they needed to. Then, she added the part that changed everything further. "And it's twins." This time, Logan reacted, not loudly, not emotionally, but distinctly. A breath left him, slower than before. "Twins," he repeated. Amanda didn't fill the space. She didn't explain, didn't justify. She let him process it in his own way, because that's what she would want if the roles were reversed. Seconds passed, then Logan spoke again. "Are you sure?" Direct, focused. Amanda answered without hesitation, "Yes." No uncertainty, no doubt, just fact. Another pause, but this one carried movement. Logan wasn't frozen. He was adjusting, recalculating, understanding what this meant beyond the surface. Amanda could feel it. Even through the phone, she expected the next part to follow a pattern. Questions, details, distance. Instead, Logan asked something else. "Where are you?" Amanda blinked slightly, caught off guard. "At home." There was no delay this time. "I'm coming." Amanda straightened immediately. "That's not necessary," she said, her tone firm but not defensive. "It is." The response came back just as steady. Not forceful, but final. Amanda exhaled slowly. She considered pushing back again, but something in his tone stopped her. Not authority, not control, certainty, and that shifted her response. "All right," she said. The call ended shortly after. No extended conversation, no unnecessary words. Everything that needed to be said had been said. Amanda lowered the phone slowly, placing it on the table. Her heart wasn't racing. Her breathing stayed even, but the atmosphere around her had changed, because now, this wasn't just information anymore. It was action. Real, immediate, shared. Minutes passed, then more. Amanda didn't move around the apartment. She stayed where she was, sitting still, not out of fear, but awareness. She looked around her space, simple, comfortable, familiar. This was her world, her structure, her control, and now, someone else was about to step into it. Not casually, not temporarily, but because they were connected in a way neither of them could ignore. A quiet knock came at the door. Not loud, not impatient, just precise. Amanda stood up, her steps steady as she walked toward it. No hesitation now, because she had already made the decision. She reached for the handle and opened the door. Logan stood there, same posture, same presence, but something about the moment made him feel different, less distant, more involved. For a second, they just looked at each other. No words, no need for them yet, because everything had already been said. And now, they were standing face to face with it. Amanda stepped slightly to the side, letting him in. No invitation needed beyond that. Logan walked inside, his eyes taking in the space quickly, not judging, not analyzing, just noticing. The door closed behind him. And just like that, the situation became real in a way it hadn't been before. No distance, no phone, no separation. Just Amanda, just Logan, and the truth that now connected them both. Logan didn't speak immediately after stepping inside. He took in the space with a quick glance, not analyzing, not judging, just understanding where Amanda lived, how she lived, what her environment felt like. Simple, warm, real. Nothing about it was excessive. Nothing about it was designed to impress. And for a brief second, it grounded him. Amanda closed the door behind him, her hand resting on the handle for a moment longer than necessary before letting go. She turned back toward him. Neither of them rushed into conversation, because now, this wasn't a situation that needed quick words. It needed clarity. Amanda walked past him toward the living area, not as an invitation, but as direction. Logan followed. She sat down first, keeping space between them as he took a seat across from her. No tension, no forced comfort, just awareness. Logan leaned forward slightly, his forearms resting against his knees. "When did you find out?" he asked. Amanda answered without delay. "A few days ago. And you're sure?" He followed. "Yes." No hesitation, no uncertainty, just fact. Logan nodded once, absorbing it. His mind was already working through structure, timing, responsibility. But this wasn't a business situation, and he knew it. So, instead of moving into control, he shifted. "What do you need?" he asked. Amanda looked at him for a moment, not surprised, but measuring the question. "I don't know yet," she replied honestly. That answer didn't frustrate him. If anything, it made sense, because there was no clear plan for something like this. Logan sat back slightly, his posture relaxing just enough to show he wasn't there to dictate anything. "Then we figure it out," he said. Amanda's expression didn't change much, but internally, she registered it. Not the words, the approach. Because he wasn't trying to take over. He was choosing to be involved, and that was different from what she expected. The conversation didn't stretch unnecessarily. They spoke about what mattered. Practical things, immediate steps, nothing dramatic, nothing forced, just forward movement. Before leaving, Logan paused near the door. "I'll check in tomorrow," he said. Amanda nodded once. Okay, no resistance, no agreement beyond acknowledgement, but it was enough. The next day, he did exactly that. A message, simple, direct. "How are you feeling?" Amanda stared at it for a second before responding, "Fine." Short, neutral, but she replied, and that mattered. The following day, another message. Then another, no pressure, no overstepping, just presence. Consistent, steady. Amanda noticed it, not immediately in her reaction, but in her awareness, because most people didn't maintain effort without expectation. Logan did. A few days later, Amanda had her next appointment. She didn't mention it to Logan. She didn't plan to, but as she stepped out of her apartment, he was already there, standing near his car, waiting. Amanda stopped for a second. "You didn't have to come," she said. Logan looked at her. "I know." That was it. No explanation, no justification, just a decision. Amanda studied him briefly, then walked toward the car. She didn't argue, didn't question it further, because his actions were clear, and for now, that was enough. The drive was quiet, not uncomfortable, just focused. Amanda looked out the window, her thoughts steady. Logan kept his attention on the road. Neither of them filled the silence unnecessarily. At the clinic, they walked in together. That alone changed the dynamic. Not visibly, but internally. Amanda checked in while Logan stood nearby, giving her space without distancing himself. Inside the room, the process moved as expected. Routine, structured, but this time, Amanda wasn't alone, and that shifted something she hadn't prepared for. She stayed composed, still asked the right questions, still listened carefully, but there was a subtle difference. She didn't carry everything by herself. Logan paid attention, not passively, actively. He asked questions when necessary, listened when it mattered, didn't interrupt, didn't control, just stayed present. And that presence was consistent. After the appointment, they walked out together again. Amanda slowed slightly near the entrance. "You don't have to keep doing this," she said. Logan stopped beside her. "Doing what?" "This," she replied, gesturing lightly. "Showing up like it's your responsibility." Logan looked at her directly. "It is." Amanda held his gaze. There was no arrogance in his tone, no performance, just truth, and that made it harder to push back. "I didn't ask you to," she said. "I know," Logan replied. "I chose to." That shifted something, because choice meant intention, not obligation. Amanda looked away briefly, processing it. "I'm used to handling things on my own," she admitted. Logan nodded. "I can tell." That wasn't criticism, it was observation. Amanda crossed her arms lightly. Then you also know that I don't need— I didn't say you did, Logan interrupted. Calm but firm, she stopped, because he wasn't dismissing her strength. He was adjusting the conversation. I'm not here because you can't handle it, he continued. I'm here because I'm part of it. That landed differently. Amanda didn't respond immediately, because, for the first time, this wasn't about independence. It was about connection, and that was unfamiliar territory for her. They stood there for a second longer, not stuck, just aware. Amanda finally nodded once, not full acceptance, but not resistance either. All right. It was small, but it meant something, because she wasn't pushing him away, not this time. And Logan, he noticed, not as a victory, but as progress, because consistency doesn't demand trust. It builds it, and slowly, without forcing it. That's exactly what was starting to happen. The shift didn't happen all at once. It built gradually, through small decisions, through repeated presence, through moments that didn't feel significant on their own, but carried weight over time. And eventually, Logan extended something different. Not a check-in, not an appointment, an invitation. Come over for dinner, he said one evening, his tone steady. No pressure, just something different. Amanda didn't answer immediately, not because she was unsure of him, but because she understood what the invitation represented, his space, his world, and stepping into it meant seeing a side of Logan she hadn't experienced yet. You're asking me to leave my comfort zone, she replied. Logan didn't deny it. Yeah, Amanda considered it for a moment, then nodded once. All right. The decision wasn't emotional, it was intentional, because avoiding the difference between their lives wouldn't make it easier to handle. That evening, Amanda stood outside Logan's building, looking up briefly before stepping inside. The transition was immediate, quiet, organized, every detail controlled. She noticed it without reacting to it, because unlike most people, she wasn't impressed by appearance. She paid attention to what it revealed. Logan opened the door before she knocked, like he had been expecting her exact arrival. You're right on time, he said. Amanda stepped inside, her eyes moving naturally through the space. Clean lines, minimal design, everything placed with purpose, nothing extra, nothing unnecessary. She walked in slowly, then stopped, turning back toward him. Do you actually live here? She asked. Or is this just where you keep things you don't use? Logan's expression shifted slightly, not defensive, amused. I live here. Amanda nodded once. All right. I'll believe you for now. She continued walking further in, her steps relaxed, not cautious, not overwhelmed, just observant. Logan watched her quietly for a second, noticing how she moved through the space without trying to adjust herself to it. No hesitation, no need to impress, just presence. Dinner was already prepared, simple, not excessive. Amanda noticed that too. You cooked? She asked, glancing at him. Logan shook his head. No. Honest answer. I respect that, she replied. They sat across from each other. The space between them wasn't large, but it carried awareness, because this wasn't neutral ground anymore. This was his environment, and Amanda was stepping into it without losing herself. That alone shifted the dynamic. So, this is your world, Amanda said, picking up her glass. Logan leaned back slightly. Part of it. Amanda nodded slowly. Quiet. Controlled. Everything where it's supposed to be. That's the goal, Logan replied. Amanda looked at him. And does it work? Logan paused. Not long. Just enough to consider the question honestly. Most of the time. Amanda smiled slightly. That means no. Logan didn't argue, because she wasn't wrong. They ate without rushing. Conversation moved naturally. Not forced. Not surface level. Amanda spoke about her upbringing, not as a story, but as experience. Where I come from, nothing stays quiet for long, she said. There's always something happening. People coming in, checking on you, asking questions you didn't ask for. Logan listened, not out of politeness, out of interest. And you like that? He asked. Amanda shrugged lightly. It can be a lot, but it also means you're never alone. That part stayed with him, because his world was the opposite. Silence, distance, privacy, everything structured to keep things separate. Amanda looked around again briefly. You ever get tired of this? She asked. Logan followed her gaze. Sometimes. Amanda leaned back slightly. That's interesting. Why? He asked. Because you built it this way, she replied. So if you get tired of it, that means something's missing. Logan didn't respond immediately, because that question didn't have a simple answer. Amanda watched him for a second, then shifted the tone slightly. Don't worry, she added. I'm not here to analyze your entire life. Logan exhaled lightly. That's good to know. A small pause passed. But this one carried comfort, not tension. Amanda reached for her glass again. You're different here, she said. Logan looked at her. How? Less guarded, she replied. Not completely, but enough to notice. Logan considered that. And you? He asked. You're the same. Amanda thought about it, then shook her head slightly. No. That answer was honest, clear, because being here, in his world, required awareness, but not change. I just know where I am, she added. Logan nodded. That made sense, and that's what made this interaction work. Neither of them was trying to become something else. They were just learning how to exist in each other's space. After dinner, they moved toward the large windows overlooking the city. The view stretched wide, lights filling every direction. Amanda stood beside him, her arms resting lightly at her sides. It looks different from up here, she said. Logan glanced at her. How? Amanda smiled slightly. Less overwhelming. Logan looked back out. That's one way to see it. Amanda turned her head slightly toward him. And what do you see? Logan didn't answer immediately, because for once, his focus wasn't on the city. It was on the person standing next to him. I see control, he said finally. Amanda nodded. That makes sense. She looked back out. I see movement. Two different perspectives. Same view. And somehow, that difference didn't create distance. It created balance. They stood there for a moment longer. No rush, no pressure, just quiet understanding. And in that space, something continued to grow. Not fast, not intense, but steady. The kind of connection that doesn't need to announce itself. It just builds, piece by piece, until one day you realize it's there. The balance didn't break overnight. It shifted, quietly, gradually. At first, Amanda noticed it in small ways. Logan still showed up, still checked in, still stayed consistent with appointments and communication. But something in his timing began to change. Not what he did, how he did it. A message that came later than usual. A response that felt shorter. Moments where his attention seemed divided. Amanda didn't react immediately. She observed. Because she had learned early in life, patterns matter more than single actions. And this was becoming a pattern. One evening, they sat together after an appointment, the air calm but not as easy as before. Amanda leaned back slightly, studying him. You've been busy, she said. It wasn't an accusation. It was a statement. Logan glanced at her. I've always been busy. Amanda nodded. That's true, but this feels different. Logan didn't respond right away, because he knew exactly what she meant. His world hadn't slowed down. If anything, it had increased its demands. More meetings, more decisions, more pressure. And now, something else had entered that structure. Something he couldn't schedule, couldn't control. Amanda, the pregnancy, the responsibility. And while he didn't step away, balancing both wasn't as seamless as he expected. Amanda leaned forward slightly. I'm not asking for an explanation, she continued. I'm just pointing out what I see. Logan met her gaze. I'm handling it. Amanda held his eyes for a second longer. Are you? That question landed differently, because it wasn't about effort. It was about presence. Logan exhaled quietly, running a hand across his jaw. This isn't something I can structure the way I usually do, he admitted. Amanda nodded. I know. And I'm adjusting, he added. Amanda tilted her head slightly. Adjustment isn't the same as being present. That created a shift. Not conflict, but pressure, because Amanda wasn't asking for perfection. She was asking for consistency in a different way. Logan leaned back, his expression tightening slightly, not in frustration, but in thought. "This is new for me," he said. Amanda didn't soften immediately. "It's new for me, too." That response was firm, grounded, because this wasn't one-sided, and they both knew it. Silence didn't follow. Instead, understanding began to take shape. Logan looked at her again, more directly this time. "I'm not stepping away from this," he said. Amanda nodded once. "I didn't say you were." Another pause, but this one carried clarity, because the issue wasn't absence, it was balance, and neither of them had mastered it yet. Days later, the pressure around Logan didn't stay contained. It reached him from every direction: expectations, reputation, decisions that required full attention, and now, a reality that didn't fit neatly into any of it. He didn't speak about it openly, but it showed in how he carried himself, in how he managed time, in how he responded. Amanda saw it again during their next visit, not in what he said, but in how he listened, present, but partially distracted. After the appointment, she didn't walk out immediately. She stayed seated for a second longer. Logan noticed. "What is it?" he asked. Amanda looked at him. "This only works if you're fully here," she said. Logan didn't interrupt. She continued. "I'm not asking you to choose between your life and this situation. I'm asking you to be honest about what you can actually give." That was direct, clear, and necessary. Logan held her gaze. "I'm here," he said. Amanda didn't nod this time. She studied him. "Then be here," she replied. That moment didn't escalate, but it settled something important, because it removed assumptions and replaced them with clarity. Later that same day, the situation shifted again. During a follow-up check, the doctor's tone changed slightly, not urgent, but more focused. "I want to monitor this closely," she said. Amanda's attention sharpened immediately. "What does that mean?" she asked. The doctor explained carefully. The pregnancy was stable, but required attention, less stress, more support, consistency, nothing extreme, but not something to ignore. Amanda absorbed the information without reacting outwardly. Logan leaned forward slightly. "What needs to be adjusted?" he asked. The doctor gave clear instructions. No confusion, no uncertainty, just responsibility. When they stepped outside, the air felt different, not heavy, but real. Amanda walked a few steps ahead before stopping. Her hand rested briefly against her side, her breath steady. Logan approached her. "We'll handle it," he said. Amanda turned to face him. Her expression wasn't fearful, but it was open in a way it hadn't been before. "I don't want to go through this alone," she said. That was the first time she said it like that. Not implied, not indirect, clear. Logan didn't hesitate. "You won't." No pause, no calculation, just certainty. Amanda held his gaze, and this time, she didn't question it, because his tone matched his actions, and that mattered more than anything else. For a moment, they stood there without speaking, but the understanding between them had changed. This wasn't just about responsibility anymore. It was about presence, partnership, and choosing to stay, even when things became more complicated. Before we continue, I want you to pause for a second. If you were in Logan's position, balancing everything he's built with a responsibility he didn't plan, what would you do? Would you step fully into it? Or would you protect the life you already created? Drop your answer in the comments. And if this story is pulling you in, make sure you like and share it, because every interaction helps this story reach someone who needs to hear it. The promise didn't exist in isolation. It entered a world that demanded control, precision, and results. And that world didn't adjust. It pushed back. Logan felt it immediately, not through confrontation, through expectation. His schedule tightened, meetings stretched longer, decisions carried more weight, and every shift in his routine didn't go unnoticed. People around him didn't ask direct questions. They observed, and then they addressed it carefully. "You've been harder to reach lately." The statement came during a meeting, neutral tone, no accusation, but clear. Logan didn't react outwardly. "I've been handling priorities," he replied. That answer should have been enough, but it wasn't, because in his world, consistency wasn't optional. It was expected, and any change, no matter how small, raised attention. "You just need to make sure nothing interferes with momentum," the voice continued. Still calm, still measured, but intentional. Logan leaned back slightly in his seat. "Nothing is interfering," he said. And technically, that was true. But internally, things were shifting, because for the first time in years, his life wasn't operating within a system he fully controlled. Amanda, the pregnancy, the responsibility, none of it fit into clean structure, and that created pressure he couldn't ignore, not because he couldn't handle it, but because it required a different version of him, one that wasn't built on precision alone. Days passed, and the pressure didn't ease. It adjusted. Subtle conversations, strategic reminders, carefully placed concerns, not direct interference, but influence. "You've built something solid. You don't want distractions affecting that." The wording was intentional, not an order, not a demand, but a suggestion designed to land. Logan understood it for what it was, a warning without being labeled as one. He didn't respond, but the message stayed, because in his world, reputation wasn't just personal, it was structural, and anything that threatened stability was watched closely. Meanwhile, Amanda began noticing changes again, not in what Logan said, but in what he didn't do. The consistency was still there, but it felt adjusted, less natural, more calculated. She didn't confront it immediately, because she had already said what needed to be said. Instead, she paid attention, and what she saw made something shift inside her. Not anger, not frustration, awareness, because this wasn't just about him anymore. It was about what his world expected from him, and where she fit into that. One evening, Amanda sat alone after returning from work. Her hands rested lightly on her stomach, her expression thoughtful. "This wasn't part of his plan," she said quietly, not blaming, just recognizing, because Logan's life had structure, clear direction, defined expectations, and she had entered that without warning, not by intention, but by reality. Amanda leaned back slightly, her gaze fixed ahead. "I can't become something that disrupts everything he built," she continued under her breath. That thought didn't come from insecurity. It came from understanding, because she knew how hard it was to build something stable, and she respected that, but at the same time, she couldn't ignore what this meant for her, for the children, for the future that was already forming. Amanda exhaled slowly. "This isn't just his situation," she said. "It's mine, too." That grounded her again, because no matter how different their worlds were, this reality belonged to both of them. Still, the question stayed, not spoken, but present. Where does she fit in all of this? Amanda stood up, moving toward the window. The city stretched out in front of her. Busy, unstoppable, everyone moving forward without hesitation, and yet, her path now depended on more than just her own decisions. That realization settled deeper than anything else, because, for the first time, her independence had to share space with something else, something permanent. And on the other side of the city, Logan stood in a room filled with expectations he had mastered for years. But now, for the first time, there was something outside that structure pulling at his focus, not enough to break it, but enough to test it. And tests don't announce themselves. They reveal what holds, and what doesn't. The change didn't arrive with an argument. It showed up in what stopped happening, the easy conversations, the moments that didn't need effort, the quiet understanding that had been building between them. It didn't disappear, but it became harder to reach. Amanda noticed it first in how she responded. Where she once answered quickly, she now paused. Where she once shared openly, she now filtered, not out of anger, out of protection, because she had already seen what pressure could do, and she wasn't going to lose herself trying to adjust to it. Logan noticed the shift too, not immediately, but clearly. Amanda wasn't distant in an obvious way. She still showed up, still spoke, still engaged when necessary, but something had changed, and he couldn't ignore it. One evening, He called her, not a message, a call. Amanda looked at her phone for a second before answering. Hey. Her tone was calm, neutral. Logan leaned slightly against his desk. You sound different, he said. Amanda didn't react to that. I sound like myself, she replied. That answer wasn't sharp, but it wasn't soft either. It was controlled. Logan straightened slightly. What's going on? Amanda took a breath before responding. Nothing's going on. Logan didn't accept that. That's not true. Amanda closed her eyes briefly, then opened them again. You're busy, she said. Your world is demanding more from you. I see it. That doesn't mean anything's wrong between us, Logan replied. Amanda let out a quiet breath. It doesn't mean nothing either. That created tension. Not loud, but real. Logan moved away from his desk, pacing once before stopping. I've been here, he said. I haven't stepped away. Amanda listened, but she didn't respond immediately, because she was choosing her words carefully. You've been present, she said, but not consistent in the way this requires. Logan frowned slightly. What does that mean? Amanda's voice stayed steady. It means I don't know where I fit when everything around you starts pulling harder. That was the core of it. Not doubt in him, uncertainty in position. Logan's expression tightened. You're part of this, he said. Amanda nodded slightly. I know that. But being part of something and being prioritized in it are not the same. That landed because it wasn't emotional. It was logical, and Logan understood logic. He just hadn't applied it here the same way. I'm handling everything I need to handle, he said. Amanda's response came without hesitation. That's the problem. Silence followed, but not empty, focused, because now they were speaking directly. No layers, no avoidance. Logan exhaled slowly. What are you asking from me? Amanda didn't answer immediately. She walked toward the window, her hand resting lightly against the frame. Not for support, for grounding. I'm not asking you to give up your life, she said. Logan listened. I'm asking you to stop treating this like something you can manage on the side. That shifted the conversation completely, because now, this wasn't about time. It was about priority. Logan held his phone tighter, his jaw setting slightly. That's not what I'm doing. Amanda turned her head slightly, her voice calm but firm. It feels like it. That word mattered. Not fact, not accusation. Feeling, and feelings couldn't be argued the same way facts could. Logan ran a hand across his face, thinking, I've built everything I have by staying in control, he said. Amanda nodded. I can see that. And this, he continued, this isn't something I can control the same way. Amanda turned fully now. And that's exactly why you're struggling with it. That hit directly. Because it was true. Logan didn't deny it. For the first time, he didn't try to redirect the conversation. I don't know how to approach this without losing control of everything else, he admitted. Amanda studied him carefully. That was the most honest thing he had said, and it changed how she heard everything else. But you're going to lose something either way, she said. Logan's expression hardened slightly, meaning, Amanda held his gaze. If you hold on too tightly to control, you'll lose what requires presence. That created a different kind of silence, one that forced reflection. Because now, this wasn't about effort, it was about choice. Logan looked away briefly, processing it. Amanda didn't push further. She had said what needed to be said. The rest wasn't something she could force. After a moment, Logan spoke again. I'm not walking away from this, he said. Amanda nodded once. I know, that wasn't the issue, and they both understood that now. I just need you to understand where I am, Logan added. Amanda's response came steady. And I need you to understand where I am too. That balanced it. Not agreement, but recognition. And sometimes, that's where growth begins. Not in resolution, but in clarity. The call ended without tension rising further, but it didn't return to comfort either. Because now, everything had been said, and what came next would depend on what they chose to do with it. The conversation didn't resolve anything. It clarified everything, and sometimes, clarity creates more pressure than confusion. Because now, neither Amanda nor Logan could pretend they didn't understand where the other stood. Days passed, but the tension didn't fade. It settled, quiet, persistent. Amanda moved differently now, not distant in a way that demanded attention, but measured. She spoke when necessary, responded when needed, but the ease that once existed between them, it wasn't there anymore. And Logan felt it, not in what she said, in what she no longer gave freely. That bothered him more than he expected, because, for someone used to control, distance without a clear solution felt unfamiliar. One evening, Logan showed up at Amanda's apartment, unannounced, not aggressively, not impulsively, but intentionally. Amanda opened the door, her expression calm but unreadable. "You didn't call," she said. Logan stepped inside. "I didn't think I needed to." Amanda closed the door behind him. "That depends on what you came here for." That tone. It was different. Not cold, but not open either. Logan turned to face her. "We need to talk." Amanda crossed her arms lightly. "We already did." Logan shook his head. "No. We acknowledge things. That's not the same as resolving them." Amanda held his gaze. "And what exactly do you think resolution looks like?" Logan stepped closer, not invading her space, but closing distance enough to be direct. "It looks like us not standing on opposite sides of the same situation." Amanda didn't move. "Maybe we are on opposite sides," she replied. That landed heavier than anything she had said before. Logan's expression shifted. "That's not how this works." Amanda tilted her head slightly. "Then explain how it works." There was no challenge in her voice, just demand for clarity. And Logan realized this wasn't something he could navigate with logic alone. "I'm here," he said. "I haven't stepped away." Amanda's response came immediately. "And I haven't said you did." "Then why does this feel like you're pulling back?" Logan asked. Amanda exhaled slowly, because now she had to say it clearly. "I'm protecting myself," she said. That stopped him, not because he didn't understand the words, but because of what they meant. "From me?" he asked. Amanda shook her head. "No. From losing myself trying to fit into something that doesn't fully include me." That was the core of it. Not fear of him, fear of disappearing within his world. Logan took that in, his jaw tightened slightly. "I haven't asked you to change who you are," he said. Amanda nodded. "You didn't have to." Silence followed, but this time, it wasn't calm. It carried weight, because now they were no longer speaking around the issue. They were standing in it. Logan ran a hand across his face, his frustration controlled, but present. "So what are you saying?" he asked. Amanda met his eyes. "I'm saying I won't build my life around uncertainty." That was clear, final, and it forced a response. Logan stepped back slightly, his posture shifting, not retreating, but recalibrating. "There's nothing uncertain about this," he said. Amanda didn't raise her voice, didn't argue emotionally. She stayed grounded. "Your world is uncertain when it comes to this," she replied. "Not because you don't care, but because you don't know how to hold both things at the same level." That hit directly, because it was true, and Logan couldn't deny it. "I'm figuring it out," he said. Amanda nodded once. "I know, but I can't pause my life while you do." That was the breaking point. Not loud, not explosive, but final in its clarity. Logan looked at her for a long second, because now, he wasn't just facing the situation. He was facing the possibility of losing something he didn't expect to matter this much. "And what happens if I don't figure it out fast enough?" he asked. Amanda didn't hesitate. "Then I move forward without waiting." That answer didn't come from anger. It came from strength, from experience, from knowing what it meant to rely on herself. Logan exhaled slowly, looking away for a moment before returning his attention to her. "I'm not used to this," he admitted. Amanda softened slightly, not in position, but in understanding. "I know," she said, "and I'm not asking you to become something you're not." Logan's eyes stayed on her. "Then what are you asking?" Amanda took a breath. Consistency that doesn't disappear when things get difficult. That was it. Simple, clear, non-negotiable. Logan didn't respond immediately, because for the first time, he didn't have a structured answer. Amanda stepped back slightly, creating space between them. Not dramatically, just enough. "I need time," she said. That wasn't rejection, but it wasn't closeness either. It was distance, intentional, Logan nodded once, not because he agreed with the situation, but because he understood it. Without another word, he turned and walked toward the door. Amanda didn't stop him, didn't call after him. She stood where she was, her arms lowering slowly to her sides. The door opened, then closed, and just like that, the space between them became real, not imagined, not temporary, real. Amanda exhaled slowly, her hand resting briefly on her stomach again, not out of uncertainty, but grounding, because no matter what happened next, she wasn't alone in this, but she might have to move forward as if she was. And Logan, for the first time in a long time, walked away without a clear solution, not because one didn't exist, but because this wasn't something he could solve alone. Before we continue, I need you to think about this carefully. If you were Amanda, would you stay and trust that Logan will rise to meet the moment? Or would you walk away and protect your peace before it's too late? Go down to the comments and tell me your decision. And if this story is holding your attention, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Because the next part, it changes everything. The apartment felt quieter after Logan left, not because it had changed, but because something inside Amanda had. She didn't move immediately. She stayed where she was, standing in the same spot, her eyes fixed ahead. The conversation replayed in her mind, not in fragments. Clearly, every word, every pause, every truth that had been said without hesitation. Amanda exhaled slowly, her shoulders lowering as the weight of it settled fully. "This is where it becomes real," she said under her breath. Not the pregnancy, not the situation, the choice. Because everything now came down to what she was willing to accept and what she wasn't. She walked toward the couch and sat down, her movements steady. No rushing, no distraction, just presence. Her hand rested lightly against her stomach again, not out of habit, but intention. A reminder. "This isn't just about me," she said quietly. That truth stayed at the center of everything. No matter what happened with Logan, that part didn't change. Amanda leaned back slightly, her gaze lifting toward the ceiling. Her thoughts weren't scattered. They were focused, sharp, because clarity had replaced uncertainty. "I can't build something unstable," she continued, not emotionally, practically, because she had seen what instability does, what it takes from you, what it forces you to carry alone, and she refused to repeat that pattern, not for herself, not for her children. Amanda closed her eyes briefly, taking in a slow breath, then opened them again. "I'll move forward," she said, not as a reaction, as a decision, whether Logan stood beside her or not. She would not pause her life waiting for someone to figure it out. That wasn't strength, that was delay. And Amanda didn't live like that. Across the city, Logan stood in a space that had always made sense to him, structured, controlled, everything aligned with purpose. But tonight, none of it felt as solid as it used to. He loosened his tie slightly, walking toward the window without urgency. The city stretched out below him, busy, constant, unchanging, and yet, for the first time in a long time, he wasn't focused on it. His thoughts stayed on Amanda, on what she said, on what she didn't say. Logan rested his hands lightly against the glass, his reflection faint in front of him. "She's not wrong," he said quietly. That realization didn't come with resistance. It came with clarity, because everything she pointed out, he already knew. He just hadn't faced it directly. Until now. Logan stepped back slightly, his posture shifting, not rigid, not fully relaxed, somewhere in between, because he was no longer operating from control. He was thinking, really thinking. "This isn't something I can manage the way I'm used to," he continued. And that mattered, because his entire life had been built on systems that responded to structure. This didn't. It required something else, something he hadn't needed to rely on in a long time. Choice, not strategic, personal. Logan ran a hand across his jaw, his expression tightening slightly as the truth settled deeper. "If I keep approaching this the same way," he stopped, because he already knew the outcome. Amanda would move forward, without him, not out of anger, out of clarity. And that was something he couldn't ignore. Logan turned away from the window, pacing once before stopping. His mind didn't search for options. It narrowed, focused, because now, this wasn't about balancing two worlds. It was about deciding how he would exist in both. "I can't stay halfway in," he said. That was the first real shift, not reaction, decision. Because halfway wasn't enough for Amanda, and it wasn't going to hold this situation together. Logan stood still for a moment longer, then nodded slightly to himself, not in confidence, but in understanding. "This requires something different," he said, and for the first time, he didn't resist that. Back in her apartment, Amanda stood again, walking slowly toward the window. The city looked the same, but her perspective had changed, not uncertain, not conflicted, clear. "I'll be okay," she said, and she meant it, because she had always been, not because things were easy, but because she didn't wait for stability. She created it, and now she would do it again, with or without him. Across the city, Logan picked up his phone, then paused, not out of hesitation, out of intention, because whatever came next, it had to be done differently, not calculated, not controlled, real, and that was something he had to choose, fully, or not at all. Logan didn't wait, not this time. The moment he made the decision, he acted on it, no overthinking, no delay, because he understood something clearly now. If he approached this the same way he handled everything else in his life, he would lose it, and this wasn't something he was willing to lose. He left his space without hesitation, moving with purpose that wasn't driven by control, but by clarity. For once, there was no structured plan, no layered strategy, just direction. Amanda. Across the city, Amanda had just set her phone down when a knock came at her door. Not loud, not rushed, but certain. She paused for a second, her eyes shifting toward it. She wasn't expecting anyone, and yet, something told her exactly who it was. Amanda walked toward the door, her steps steady. When she opened it, Logan stood there. Same presence, same posture, but not the same energy. Something about him felt different, not distant, not controlled, present, fully. Amanda didn't step aside immediately this time. She held his gaze. "What is it?" she asked. Her tone wasn't cold, but it wasn't open either. It was guarded, and Logan recognized that. "I needed to come here and say this in person," he replied. Amanda didn't move yet. "Say what?" Logan took a breath, not to steady himself, but to speak clearly. "I've been approaching this wrong." Amanda's expression didn't change, but her attention sharpened. "How?" she asked. Logan didn't look away. "I treated this like something I could fit into my life without changing anything else." That was direct, no excuses, no justification. Amanda listened, but she didn't interrupt. "And that doesn't work," he continued. "Not for this. Not for you." That mattered, because he wasn't speaking in general terms. He was being specific, intentional. Amanda studied him for a moment longer, then stepped slightly to the side, letting him in, not as acceptance, but as space to continue. Logan walked inside, stopping a few steps in. He didn't sit, didn't try to make himself comfortable. He stayed standing, facing her. "I don't need time to figure this out," he said. "I needed to decide how I was going to show up." Amanda crossed her arms lightly. "And?" she asked. Logan held her gaze. "I'm not doing this halfway." That landed, because it wasn't phrased as effort. It was framed as commitment. Amanda tilted her head slightly. "Those are words," she said. "I've already heard words." Logan nodded. "I know." He didn't push back, didn't defend himself. "And you were right to question them," he added. That shifted something, because he wasn't trying to win the moment. He was owning it. Amanda's posture eased slightly. Not fully, but enough to show she was listening. "What changed?" she asked. Logan answered without hesitation. "I stopped trying to protect what I built and started deciding what actually matters." That was the truth. Clear, unfiltered. Amanda looked at him carefully. "And what did you decide?" she asked. Logan took a step closer, not imposing, but intentional. "I'm choosing this," he said, fully. Amanda's eyes didn't leave his. "This?" she repeated. Logan nodded. "You, the children, everything that comes with it. No hesitation, no conditions, just clarity." Amanda searched his expression, looking for doubt, for hesitation, for anything that suggested this was temporary. She didn't find it, but she still didn't respond immediately, because this was bigger than a moment. You understand what that means? She asked. Logan didn't look away. It means my life changes. And, Amanda pressed, it means I stop separating things that don't belong apart. He replied. That answered more than she expected, because it wasn't about sacrifice. It was about integration. Amanda lowered her arms slowly, still cautious, still aware. But your world doesn't just accept change like that, she said. Logan nodded once. I know. And? She asked again. Logan's response came steady. I'm not asking it to. That was the shift, not negotiation. Decision. Amanda took that in, fully, because now, this wasn't about whether he cared. It was about whether he was willing to stand in that choice when pressure came, and when it pushes back? She asked. Logan didn't hesitate. It already has. Amanda's expression sharpened slightly. And you're still here, she said. Yes. That answer carried weight, because it wasn't theoretical anymore. It was proven. Amanda walked a few steps past him, turning slightly as she processed everything. Her thoughts weren't confused. They were focused, because this was the moment where everything either aligned or didn't. She turned back to face him. This isn't just about showing up now, she said. It's about staying when it gets harder. Logan met her eyes. I'm not leaving. That response didn't come with emphasis. It didn't need it, because the certainty behind it was enough. Amanda stood there for a second longer. Then, for the first time since everything shifted, she didn't hold back. Not fully, but enough. Then don't make me question that again, she said. Logan nodded once. I won't. No extended explanation. No promise layered in emotion. Just commitment. Clear and steady. The space between them felt different now. Not perfect. Not resolved completely. But aligned. Because both of them were standing in truth, not assumption. And that changed everything. For the first time, they weren't reacting to the situation. They were choosing it. Together. Time didn't slow down after that. It moved forward the way it always does. Steady, unapologetic. But this time, Amanda and Logan moved with it. Together, not perfectly, not without adjustment, but intentionally. The days that followed weren't defined by grand gestures. They were shaped by consistency. Logan didn't disappear into his world. And Amanda didn't carry everything on her own. They built something different. Step by step, appointment by appointment, conversation by conversation, Amanda still held her independence. She didn't let go of the life she had built, but she no longer stood alone in it. And Logan, he didn't try to control every detail. He adapted, not by force, by choice. There were moments that tested them, days where schedules clashed, times when pressure returned. But this time, they didn't step away from it. They adjusted within it, and that made the difference. Months passed. The pregnancy progressed steadily. Every visit brought new information, new awareness, new responsibility, but also something else. Connection, not just between Amanda and Logan, but between both of them and the lives they were preparing for. One evening, Amanda stood in her apartment, her hands resting gently against her stomach. The change was visible now, no longer subtle, real, present. She looked at her reflection for a moment, not questioning, not doubting, just seeing. You're doing this, she said quietly, and she meant it, because she wasn't waiting anymore. She was living it. Behind her, Logan leaned against the doorway, watching without interrupting. He didn't need to say anything, because moments like this didn't require words. Amanda turned slightly when she noticed him. You've been quiet, she said. Logan stepped forward a little, just observing. Amanda smiled faintly. That's new. Logan didn't deny it. I'm learning. That was true. Not learning how to manage the situation, but how to be present in it. Amanda nodded. That's all this requires. Not perfection, not control, just presence. Later that night, they sat together. The conversation light but meaningful, not forced, not heavy, just real. Do you ever think about how different this could have been? Amanda asked. Logan looked at her. Yeah. Amanda leaned back slightly. Me too. There was no regret in her voice, just awareness, because they both understood. This didn't have to work, but it did, not by chance, by decision. Weeks later, the moment arrived, not dramatic, not chaotic, focused, real. Amanda remained steady, grounded, even as everything around her shifted into urgency. Logan stayed beside her, not trying to take control, not stepping back, just there, present in every second. And when the moment came, it wasn't about fear. It was about arrival, 2 lives, entering the world, changing everything again. The room settled after, not silent, but calm. Amanda held them carefully, her expression soft but strong. Logan stood close, looking down. For a second, he didn't speak, because there was nothing to explain, nothing to calculate, just reality. And for the first time in his life, that was enough. Amanda glanced at him. "You're quiet again," she said. Logan let out a small breath. "I don't have a structured response for this." Amanda smiled slightly. "That's because this isn't something you structure." Logan nodded. "I know." And that was growth, not in what he said, but in what he understood. Time moved again, but differently now, because their lives weren't separate anymore. They were connected in a way that required consistency, not perfection, not control, just commitment. Amanda adjusted without losing herself. Logan adapted without trying to reshape everything. And together, they built something that didn't exist before, not just a situation, a foundation, one that came from truth, from choice, from showing up when it mattered, and staying when it became difficult. Because in the end, this wasn't about one night. It wasn't about circumstance. It wasn't about chance. It was about what they chose to do after everything changed. And that is what defined them. Before we end this story, I want you to think about this. Have you ever faced a moment that forced you to choose between comfort and growth? Between staying where things feel safe or stepping into something that demands more from you? If you have, drop your experience in the comments, because stories like this don't just live on screen. They live in real people. And if this story meant something to you, make sure you like, share, and subscribe, because here at Mr. Gray Family, every story begins with us, and the next one might just change the way you see everything.